Good day, everybody. It's the 26th of November. I'm here on the streets of Minsk, and I'm by this store. Let me show you back here. This is, well, I don't know, you can't call it a chain store. I guess there's one in Moscow. It's called Sum. I'm hoping you can see that. Not so crazy about cameras nowadays. I can't zoom so well. But as you see, the winter weather is already here. And oh, let me show you the dragon here. It looks pretty nice, I think. Some kid just got his picture taken here. Looks like the eyes light up. Okay, this is a main area of Minsk. I guess it's a lot of people get off shopping here. Across the street is a restaurant of Belarusian food, not very expensive, by the way. It says bistro, meaning fast. I think it's like a buffet serving line. You can pick your own stuff. Looks like I'm going to be fighting my bag here the whole time, wanting to come down. But let's get into some news. Last night we had the podcast live stream, and of course, if you look at the video before this one, you can see the instructions on how to get there, as far as on YouTube. And I don't know if we're going to be broadcasting on YouTube very much. It's going to be on Rumble, but it wasn't on Rumble last night for some reason. I don't know what that is. But we talked a lot about Belarus, and what it's like here, living here, and, a lot of time the costs, what it costs to have an apartment and to maintain your apartment, and a lot of times about just the costs of food here, maybe, living, compared to what it would be like in some other parts of the world, that it's vastly more expensive, and I didn't even know that myself, how expensive it really is in other places. So, or maybe you can see a little better. It says Zoom up there, if I'm not blocking it. Okay. Of course, we talked a lot about the Belarusian women too. There was another man there from the United States. His name is Steve. He's from New York, and he worked for the Department of the Homeland Security, and he retired a little bit early. And a lot of what he did is he invested very well. And I guess it was Bitcoin. Something I'm not really that crazy about because I don't really understand. He says he doesn't understand Bitcoin that much either, but he says he understands investing. So he knows when to put it in and when not. And he's made a lot of money. He bought himself a really huge apartment. He's renovating it now. So, but we'll have him on again on our podcast called From the Other Side, and on YouTube, From the Other Side BY, all in one word, as you know. That's how that works. And I've been to this area before. The metro stop is called Ploshad Yakuba. Here's a supermarket chain, kind of a good quality store called Yevro Opt. I'm not sure if that's from Lithuania. I sort of think it is. But anyway, let's get into some news that we didn't talk about last night. And I'll start off talking about Germany. And I hope you can probably hear me, even though there's loud traffic here. I can barely hear myself. But talk about Germany now. Germany put out that they're going to send a lot more money now to Ukraine. Money and weapons, of course. It never ends, just like the United States. And these people, they're possessed in some way, knowing, and everybody's now admitting that Ukraine cannot beat Russia. It's absolutely hopeless. But yet they're still sending the money. And of course there's a lot of reasons for that. At least a few reasons for that, a few main reasons. I'll get into that. One is mostly that they know that even though they know that Ukraine is not going to be successful against Russia, some people are sending this money a lot of time because it is a way to money launder. You send the money there, and half of the money comes back to the United States, And of course, these politicians are not paying all this money. It's the taxpayers that are paying the money. So it's not coming out of their pockets. You know, they're getting off really well. They're getting some money in their pockets. They can run for re-election, even if it's not, say, some people maybe in their book would be called corruption. Corruption would be if they're stealing it in such a way, but in fact they really are stealing it. They're taking it from the people's pocket, and a lot of it shovels back to them, and they use it for their campaign donations, you know, in order to live a cushy life. And so it's not like they're taking the money and buying yachts with it necessarily. Some probably are. Well, you know how that works. You can just figure that out. That all out. It's not very difficult. Concert hall, it says here in this building. Shoveling snow on Sunday here. So here's a big Christmas tree. I'll show you that first here. So anyway, well, that's how things work in the United States, as you know, and that's how it works with Israel, and how it always has worked to Israel. That's why they can send all these billions, and a lot of it comes back to the United States, to the politicians for at least running for office, if nothing else. And also, there's a contradiction going on, and you know, it should make you curious that although they know that that Ukraine cannot beat Russia, yet they're still sending the money. So, and you know, like I just said, one reason is maybe a lot of money laundering, but there's another reason as well. It's to save face, very simply. And like I said, the money's not coming out of their pockets, so they can afford to do these things for stupid reasons. And it's to save face. You know, they said, as long as it takes, as much as it takes, to the last Ukrainian, things like that. So they're sending all this money, and they're making it at least appear that they're still willing to do everything that it takes. Remember when the amounts of money were really, really high? Zelensky, at least from the United States, was always getting it was like, and I've said this in videos, like every 2 weeks to 10 days, he was getting 250 million, 250 million, along with these regular deposits of a couple billion here and a couple billion there. And, you know, it ends up to be an awful lot of money. And so they're making it look like it says, oh yes, we're still fulfilling our part. But of course they're giving Ukraine just a little bit, just enough to at least appear that they're actually sending some money. Like now it's just 100 million, not 250 million, and it's coming a lot less often. And so you hear in the wings that they're trying to get Zelensky to make a deal with Russia, because they don't want to pay for that anymore, mostly because they are now supporting Israel. And as you remember, they were running out of shells, so they said, we have to send cluster munitions because we don't have any 150 millimeter shells. Well, lo and behold, isn't that strange that when this conflict came between Hamas and Israel, they came up with thousands and thousands of 155 millimeter shells to give to Israel. You know, I don't know, maybe there's some magician or something, maybe they brought back Merlin or something, and then they got some of these shells coming out of nowhere. But that's all I have to say about that. Okay. But everybody's saying now that it's about half of the money that they send to Ukraine comes back to the United States. Half of it, you know. Mike Jones even put that out in an article. He said it's the biggest money laundering machine of the decade. I think that was one of his latest articles that he put out. I think it was either this morning or yesterday. Just to keep you a little bit up to speed of what Mike Jones is putting out, because he's been taken off of YouTube like a lot of people. Not just demonetized like Russell Brand or at one time Jackson Hinkle. Jackson Hinkle's now removed. He's just been a bad boy, I guess. So you know how that is. I was taken off a few times, but I guess I'm still there. I don't know. I hit some subjects too that YouTube doesn't like. But anyway, let's keep on going here. There's a lot of stories coming out about October 7th, the real truth that came out. And I was putting this out immediately when I made my first video about this event, and I was saying it doesn't pass the smell test, and there's going to be more information coming out about the truth, because at that time there was already some witnesses, speaking up and saying that they were not treated poorly by Hamas, and of course it sounded very, very credible. And it's more like luckily, and I'm not saying I'm so great, but luckily my nose was right and my crystal ball was working, and I knew that there was some crap going on there. So, and yeah, what else here? There was no beheaded, burned babies. I think one child actually died. And if you really want to know now, there's some more information that just came out. I believe some just came out yesterday. And of course it corroborates another story, which was a lot of the same thing, about the plans of Hamas. They know what the plans of Hamas were. The plans of Hamas were to like blow up two crossings, like maybe some border crossing checkpoints, whatever you want to call them, and then to take hostages, and then use those hostages for exchange to get Palestinian hostages. And that's their whole plan. And there's nothing said in their plan about killing anybody. You know, possibly blowing up some checkpoints that might entail maybe killing some IDF, some Israeli Defense Force soldiers. But as far as any hostages and anything like that, they didn't have anything like any kind of explosives like what was used on that day. And it's all well known now that that was killed by Israel. So virtually all of these innocent people, all these innocent Israelis, were killed by Israelis. They were killed by Israelis. Isn't that a shock? And of course some IDF people died and all that. Some of them, of course, probably were killed by Hamas. I don't know how many people from Hamas actually penetrated the border like that. You know, I'm not talking penetrated like Klaus Schwab. Oh, we penetrate the cabinets. But anyway, they came across the border, and like I said, their whole deal. I really don't think that they killed any innocents, any civilians. Hamas. It's really against their creed. They don't do that. They don't kill innocent people, and that's something that you're not going to hear in the West. Israel's going to tell you differently, that there's some brutal terrorists. You know, they do the same thing about Russia. They do the same thing about anybody who's the designated enemy of the week, the month, or the designated enemy of the year, or the decade, or the century, like Russia. The enemy of the century. You know, that's for the masters of the universe. But I'll get into the split, like I talk about on occasion, you know, the split of the masters of the universe. You have the Soros side, which is actually, at least appearing to be, obviously, pro-Palestinian. They're pro-refugee and all that sort of thing. And then you got the other side, which includes Israel, and you got the neocons on there, and it's, you know, kill everybody and let God sort them out sort of a deal. But I said I have a little bit more about that a little bit later on here. And yeah, but there's also evidence that there's a lot of evidence that Israel knew about what was going to be going on, and they did nothing about it. And apparently what they were trying to do is they're going to let it happen, and maybe they didn't, I don't know, well, you would think that's not true, that they didn't want anybody to get killed, but it looks like they went hog wild and killed so many of their own people, their Israelis, and then used it as a blame against Hamas, of course. How very convenient. Was it on purpose? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I have a very good guess. I know what happened, why they, if it was done purposely or not. A lot of these people, they don't even have, you know, I was thinking the Israelis, they had a lot of regard for Jewish lives, but apparently they don't even have any, they don't even hold any other lives any higher. Maybe just a little bit more than, say, well, actually, obviously they don't have any respect at all for Palestinian lives, as you see, and is very well known. It's all over the world. They're just massacring practically babies. They want to massacre babies, and that's I have to say, it's undeniable. This is an act of genocide, killing babies. So you can all make your own judgments on how to fill in the blanks on that. And now also these hostages, you know, there's a hostage exchange, and this was, a lot of it was just done yesterday evening, as a matter of fact. And a lot of these hostages on the Israeli side, they're prohibited from speaking about their time in captivity under, you know, Hamas. the Hamas captivity, because some of the early ones that came out, they were saying that they were treated very, very well, and that these Hamas people were sacrificing forever, for example, what water they had and giving it to the hostages. They were doing everything to keep the hostages as comfortable as possible. There was no beating and no humiliation anywhere. And I guess that comes true with every time there's any sort of hostages taken like that. And of course they don't want you to know that. And now there's a big fine. I think it's over 18,000 US dollars for any Israeli former hostage that speaks out about their time in captivity under Hamas. So what does that tell you? It's sort of like that Brittany Griner when she was in a Russian prison, and she didn't speak out. Nobody wanted to hear what she wanted to say because she didn't have anything bad to say about Russia. So, Orwellian times. The bad guy is the good guy is the bad guy. So it makes you wonder what us Western type people, what our governments are like. Are they the good guys or are they the bad guys? And are the ones that they've been telling you your whole life bad guys? Are they actually the bad guys? Just something for you to decide for yourself. Just put some information together, put all the facts together, do a little bit of analysis, doesn't take very much, and you can find out that you've been lied to on many occasions, not just about history, not just about other things. So that's one point cleared. It's very strange because, like last night we was talking, with this other American. He's done a lot of living in Texas as well. So Texas and New York, I believe, both places. And then there's Dave, who is actually Australian, but he's done a lot of working for United States government, sort of a thing. And I'll let him talk about what that was. Been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's been severely wounded. So like I said, if you watch the podcast, you'll find out on that yourself. I'm not going to speak for him. But one point that we all know, at least the three of us, and there's many, many more, a lot of them live over here in Belarus, that we know that a lot of you that watch this also know that the truth is not really what they tell you it is. Plain and simple. Okay. Also, talking more about the truth, there was the world scientists. I can't remember this organization. I should have wrote it down what the organization was. But anyway, they've been ordered to cover up the facts that there has been no significant warming of the Earth for the last 15 years. So that's just a fact I'm just throwing out there. Also, what was put out, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, he highlighted the fact that Biden came out and said that tragedy and upheaval can lead to great progress. And he was, of course, drawing some parallels. He was basically saying, well, he was pointing out that the basics of what Biden is saying is that money and blood equals great investment. And as you all know, the Bidens are heavily invested in Ukraine. So it's not very difficult to figure out that Dmitry Medvedev is talking very accurately. Podolyak, when you talk about some of these other people, now let's go into Ukraine. Podolyak, he's been saying ever since the military operation began that he's going to be laying on the beach in the Crimea very soon, And now he's come out and he's changed his tune a little bit. I don't know what it took to make him change his tune, but he's saying that there's a little chance of success about them, winning against Russia, winning this thing. Show you a little bit around. This is the side of the building here. Not a very interesting area, but let me see. Although there's another part here, I have to throw this one in here as well. There's this other guy. He's the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security, of course, and he's the guy that normally was putting his glasses on the end of his nose until I made a video, mocking him, and now he doesn't do it anymore. I guess he's watching my videos. I'm just kidding. His name is Alexei Danilov, and he said that to the Ukrainian people, that everything is bad. Isn't that strange? Everything is bad right now, and it's gonna get worse, he said. And I've got my theories about why he said that, but let's see, what else did he say first? I'll get to that. Most significant thing he said was, we should not think, this is a quote, we should not think, I repeat, that we will be fed and helped for the rest of our lives. It is time for us to grow up and decide how to develop our country. I used to not like this guy, but he's gone up a notch in my book. Now that he's come out and admit that, I put him now. He's at notch number 1. So I thought I had another quote from that guy. I guess I don't. But my theory on why he's saying this is not for the Ukrainian people. My theory that he's putting this out because he wants the West to hear this. It's kind of like begging for money. I'm just guessing. Because why would some politicians say that? You know how, look at it in the United States, they always tell how great they are, how great it is under their administration and how good they do things. But if he's not saying that just to attract the West and to attract money, actually, then I would actually have a lot more respect for him for that reason. But you never know. Lloyd Austin, he said that Russia must respect Ukraine's sovereignty. Whatever he said. But he didn't mention that the United States should respect Syria's sovereignty, as they occupy a large chunk of Syria that is, of course, the most productive part of Syria, the best agriculture, the oil, everything. It's the best part of Syria, and of course the United States has admitted it. As a matter of fact, the United States, there was a lady I mentioned in one other video that she came out and said that they own that. That is U.S. territory. That is owned by the United States now. It's not that it's occupied. It's owned by the United States. I don't know why they don't call it a territory, like Washington, D.C. or something, but that's what they said. And of course, they're stealing the oil out of there and selling it. Yes, Estonia. Estonia is now building a wall, so to speak, at least a lot of barriers, and they're putting up a lot of barricades between their border and Russia's border. So it looks like they're going to close their border as well, just like Finland did, at the behest, of course, of the United States. Isn't that strange? Finland has never ever been threatened by Russia, except in the old days when it was actually Finland that threatened Russia and made war against Russia, and Russia whooped the crap out of them. And then Russia said, we're not going to occupy or take any of your country as long as you just stay neutral. And Finland, of course, jumped on it and said, yes, okay, we'll do that. It's sort of like what's going on in Ukraine right now. Putin put a deal towards Ukraine long time ago, and now it looks like they're kind of ready to accept the deal after they've lost already a lot of territory and lost a lot of people. A lot of blood has been spilled. Now they're going to probably accept the deal. So the only thing that happened was just a lot of people got slaughtered through the meat grinder. That was brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah. I'll tell you what I just said about some of these Ukrainian officials now talking about, that all hope is lost for Ukraine. I'll tell you, the reason why that is, it's because there's no way, there's no hope for Ukraine, because there's such an indelibly corrupt country. Anything that you do in there, you put a new government in there, it is so vast. The corruption is so vast in Ukraine, from the bottom up all the way through. And the United States used to admit that before the special operation, before they started using Ukraine as a tool for their geopolitical goals. And I said in the podcast yesterday that the only hope that I see is they need some kind of a person there that can get rid of the corruption. And right next door, there's a person that really appreciates Ukraine. Actually, he has nothing but positive to say about the Ukrainian potential and the Ukrainian people and the landscape. And that is Lukashenko. He's the leader of this country. And if it were up to me, Lukashenko had even said once, he said this over a year ago, he said that Ukraine will one day become part of the Union State, which the Union State now is Belarus and Russia. But can you imagine the three northern Slavic peoples that are basically all brothers, all joining together and in harmony instead of this bad ideology that has infected the minds of the people in Ukraine? And now, of course, spread into the Baltics and Poland and the United States and back into Germany again, where a lot of this ideology actually seemed to have started. So, but he loves Ukraine, actually. I wouldn't want him to leave here. You know, makes you wonder if there's any kind of a solution that can be reached where Lukashenko is there to oversee what happens and get rid of all the corruption there. This country, we were mentioning last night, there's virtually no corruption. There's corruption everywhere, and you can't get rid of it. You know, obviously there's somebody gonna want to make a buck, want to make a dollar on the side somewhere, and of course there are people that do that here. As a matter of fact, I think he fired his own doctor and he even publicized it, Lukashenko, for doing some dealing, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. But you know, it's nothing like what happens in the United States where they're taking millions of dollars or screwing people over royally. So I'm just saying. New York just passed a law, and it allows the state government to send people to prison if they do not stay, well, up to that bad of a punishment, up to putting them in prison for not staying inside during a lockdown, during a pandemic. It used to be considered unconstitutional in New York, but now they passed it. I guess it's the Supreme Court of New York. So, as you know, old Billy Boy and some of these other people, they promised another pandemic. So, when that comes about, get ready. Baerbock, the brilliant mind of Germany, Annalena Baerbock. 360 degrees Baerbock, and all of the other things you can say, whatever the things that she's ever said. But she says, another beauty, that the European Union is going to benefit from adding Ukraine. You know, the basket case Ukraine that has, you just heard what I said about Danilov, and of course the Ukraine has been living like that way for a long time. They've been living off charity from, say, it was the Soviet Union, and then after the collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of it, Russia was helping them, but they still couldn't make it. They can't make it without substantial help from some other places, substantial money. And that was the case then. And if they're in the European Union someday, that's going to be the case then too. So it's not that the European Union is going to benefit, it's going to be Ukraine benefiting. Just saying. Because as Danilov has just said, basically they can't, at least not at this time, he said, they can't make it on their own. I'll tell you what, they can't make it on their own even if they're not at war, because of all the corruption. All that money is going not to places that it should be going. Follow trends, you can see that yourself. Baerbock. Oh, brilliant. And I'd also like to say, you should subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Hit that subscribe button. A lot of people do that. I haven't been saying that a lot of time, but I guess I should. That's just part of the deal. I was saying that there's another part about this, the Masters of the Universe, and there are two sections. You got the Soros side, and you got the U.S. Neoliberal, neo-nasty, neoconservative grouping over here, and then the Soros people on the other side. And of course, they overlap to a large extent. As you know, Victoria Nuland, she's a neoconservative, and she was in Ukraine for a long time, and she basically shared an office with the Soros people. Obviously, they must have shared the bathroom together because they were on the same floor, right next to each other, during the time when they decided to take over Ukraine. Back started, at least officially, at least what we could see was back the hostilities starting in about 2014. So, but they have their little differences, and as you know, you see the side right now. Some are on the side of Israel, of the masters of the universe, and some are on the side of Palestine. I really don't know. It's nothing that they're going to be fighting about, of course, because they probably share interests. So we'll see over time. I don't think there's going to be any conflict really between the two sides of the masters of the universe. And this ceasefire, as you know, it's not really being honored quite like it should. It's at least better than it was when there was no ceasefire, but Israel is still, I think it was in 2 hours. 2 hours after it was supposed to go into effect, they already killed some people trying to get up to the north just to see how their houses are, or their homes are, blown up, maybe to find some of their belongings, of course, maybe in the rubble. I don't know. But anyway, Israel shot and killed all of those people. I think it was like 5 of them on a bridge. At least I don't know if any of them lived, or maybe the other ones just started running back to the south. Because the north belongs to Israel. And they could obviously see that these were innocent people, but they shot them and killed them anyway. Instead of even escorting them back, they just shoot them and kill them. That's how much respect they have for non-Jewish lives. And again, I'm not going to dump on Jewish people, because there's a lot of Jewish people that are very good people. So this branch of Zionism is actually what is apparently, I guess there's no other way to say it, but evil. I don't know, maybe all Zionists are. I'm not an expert on this. But now let's get to the other side of the Soros group. So we had Greta Thunberg. She was at a protest in Stockholm. I believe that was yesterday, maybe the day before. I'm not quite sure. It didn't matter. Anyway, in the last few days, at a protest, and one of the things that she was chanting, of course, in Swedish, is "Death to the Zionists," or no, "Death to Zionism," or no, "We will destroy Zionism." I'm getting a little carried away. Death to anyway, I don't know. Maybe she said it even worse. I think I saw 2 different things, and maybe she was saying "death to Zionism." Maybe it depends on how you translate the Swedish. I don't know. Yes. And Breitbart. This is the last story, by the way, so you can all take a breather after this. I need to get my nose warm as well. But Breitbart put out a story that Bill Gates and J.P. Morgan, they had partnered together to make the Global Health Investment Fund. And that's used to make big money during pandemics and all that. You're talking about J.P. Morgan Bank, which is part of the U.S. Federal Reserve, that of course runs and owns and basically controls the United States money supply. And then there's Bill Gates, who has ambition to become again the richest man on earth. He tried that with the vaccines, and you can talk a lot about old Billy Boy. My homeboy comes from my hometown in Kirkland, Washington, unfortunately. That's how that is, I think I even mentioned my cousin had eaten breakfast with him quite a few times. The guy, these people in the World Economic Forum, they want us to eat bugs. They want to make some fake meat. They want to make fake meat and have us eat, made of bugs and weeds and things like that, and we get to eat that. And then old Billy Boy, he's up buying up a lot of the farmland, particularly in the United States, but also in other parts of the world. And I don't know, what is he going to do? He's going to use it for beef farming? Because I'll tell you something you don't know. Old Billy Boy, he loves beef. He ate hamburgers in the morning, as my cousin told me. He would go and, he had a Burger King built right across from Microsoft. My cousin, well, their family, they had a condominium right next door to Burger King. And so my cousin would go there to eat the breakfast things in the morning. But maybe at that Burger King, I don't know, at least Billy Gates, he could get hamburgers in the morning. And I didn't think normally that they served these sort of a lunch sort of things. I don't know. Or maybe that he ate breakfast at 11. I don't know. Because I think that's when they maybe will serve lunch in the morning, I think. I don't know. Maybe that's McDonald's. I'm just guessing at that part there. But anyway, he loves beef. He's like addicted to beef. So he wants, they don't want us to eat beef. I guess it's all for themselves. But, on the plans of the World Economic Forum, I guess they're going to say once in a while we get to eat beef. It's sort of like a, dog getting a doggy treat or something like that. So, good boy, sit down, sit, roll over, shake. So that's supposed to be us, I guess, in the near future. I guess by Agenda 2030, we're supposed to be like dogs, I guess. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But you know how that is. And that's about all I have today, and I'm glad you all joined me, and I'm hoping you're going to watch our podcast in the future. We don't even have a day yet set which days we're going to be broadcasting. But it's going to be late at night on my time. It's going to be at, you can figure that out. You guys get daylight savings time. I don't think we have that here. But it's, I guess it's going to start at 8 o'clock here at our time. I don't get home till nearly at midnight. And I hope it's not going to be when I have school the next day. So, but again, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next ones. Bye-bye.